Smitley here, BrandonSmitley.com, doing another round of Q&As. Got some good stuff from the Facebooks a while ago, and there are a fair amount of questions. I'm going to only kind of tackle one in the specific one because I feel like I can cover a lot of information about this one topic. This comes from a NutriBody team member, Liz Jackson. She had a lot listed in here, so I'm just going to focus on just one thing that I think was more of the big key point of the question, and then maybe in another video break down some other of the questions into smaller pieces. But basically, this covers how to transition to powerlifting from other styles of lifting, either weightlifting or more physique-based sport. And then while doing that, how to maintain that proper body composition. And then to pay off that when you're ready for a meet. So first thing, you're always ready for a meet. There's no specific numbers, date, or whatever when you're ready for a meet. You're ready for a meet now, tomorrow, next week, 3 months from now. If you haven't done a meet, you're always ready for a meet because you essentially don't have any meet PRs. So the first thing to do is just go get meet PRs. I try to stress that enough, especially with my collegiate people, that if you're worried about what you're going to lift, you're not thinking long term about what really matters in the grand scheme of things. To be honest, getting that first meet out of the way is one of the most important things you can do because you're going to mess up somewhere. You're going to miss a call. You're not going to squat to depth. You're going to hit, you're going to rack the bar early. You're going to forget to pause your bench. You might drop your deadlift. You got to get used to flight orders, how long the day is going to be, figuring out what kind of food to take with you, weigh-ins. All those little things are just a pain in the butt. And quite frankly, if you're somebody that's really strong, just looking to try to put up a huge total, you're probably going to be better off to just go and do a really smaller meet, get those little things out of the way, mess up early at the beginning of your career, and get it out of the way. So with that said, just go do a meet. It doesn't even matter which one. The federation probably isn't going to matter. Ideally, you're going to compete how you like to compete. So, if you want to use knee wraps, make sure you do the federation lets you use knee wraps. If you want to use any kind of other equipment, single ply, multi-ply, whatever, that's your thing, make sure you do a meet that allows that. Same thing with the drug testing, making sure that if you want to compete against other drug tested lifters, make sure you're doing a federation that has that division. So other than that, though, you should be able to do pretty much any federation you want. Just find a meet that's close to you. So get online to some of the different federations or Powerlifting Watch or wherever you're going to go, and just find a meet that's going to be local. And by local, I mean less than 2 hour drive, I would say, if at all possible, maybe 3, depending upon where your location is. Like Indiana, for example, has a very poor powerlifting representation in terms of meets, so I can't really stay within the state if I want to do any meet. I'm typically having to look at Illinois, Ohio for my bigger meets. Then, to piggyback off the rest of that question, for the other portions, maintaining leanness. I would say that your nutrition, honestly, probably isn't going to have to change that much. If you're training with a higher volume approach, with more physique-based stuff, you may actually find that you don't need to eat as much whenever you're training heavy. Your caloric expenditure is probably going to be down. Your volume, your muscle damage is going to be down. You're more so looking at just working on bigger lifts. So I would say that keep your nutrition the same and just see what happens. If you don't have enough energy, that means you need to eat more. If you feel like you're constantly full, you keeping track of the way you look in terms of either measurements, body composition, or just looking at the mirror / pictures. If you're getting a little fluffy or overweight, then you need to pull back. But for me, I don't really think that there's anything from a nutritional standpoint that really needs to change. If you're already eating healthy and multiple meals a day and your supplement regimen's all right, really you're probably not going to have to change anything. You're going to be okay. You're not going to gain an absurd amount of weight from getting just on a powerlifting program if you get a physique-based program background. Now, the third part of that is how to transition into powerlifting from basically a physique-based sport. my biggest suggestion would be that you learn the competition lifts very, very well. If you come from a physique-based sport, you probably have a sufficient amount of strength already and you don't even realize it. Because with physique-based sport, you're building that muscle tissue through different rep ranges, and it takes a long time to build quality mass. But with mass comes strength because of the increased cross-sectional area of your muscle. So basically, just the bigger the muscle is, the more strength potential it has. So you have a lot of strength potential there. Now it's just a matter of learning the technique, the proper leverages, and getting those motor units and all that recruitment to sync together to list one big lift. That does take a little bit of time, but quite frankly, it's much faster to learn technique and get that honed in than it is to actually build muscle tissue, because muscle tissue is going to take time in terms of requiring the raw resources of food to build that on top of proper recovery and all that other stuff. So if you've got the muscle mass, displaying that in terms of strength is honestly probably the easiest part, especially if you're around the right people. So depending on how much knowledge you have, I would say my first suggestion would be to go to Elite FTS and look at the So You Think You Can Squat and So You Think You Can Deadlift series and So You Think You Can Bench Press series. Those 3 video series alone, it's probably going to be like an hour and a half of video to watch, but I think visually it helps a lot of people that can't get a coach to put their hands on them and put them in the right places. So from a visual aspect, that's definitely going to do it. There's of course other articles and stuff on Elite FTS that can break things down scientifically in terms of training and all that other kind of stuff. That's going to be all personal preference, but just making sure you have the technique and reading all that kind of stuff and visually watching it is going to help you tremendously. If that is still giving you issues, say after your first 6 weeks, you can't technically get something down, I would say look to hire or seek out a coach that you can consult with to look at your technique. Either get on the phone, get on Skype, email back and forth, just to figure out your technique and get some analysis done of what you need to do. There is differences in terms of how you're going to bench press for powerlifting and how you're going to bench press for bodybuilding. You can do a bodybuilding style bench, but it's not going to be the most advantageous to lift the most weight in the meet. So that would be my other biggest suggestion was, is find someone that you can consult with that has the knowledge base for what you're wanting to do. I think the biggest thing that as a physique athlete needs to take away from the powerlifting stuff is don't abandon your physique stuff. You're going to use a lot of that to actually become a better powerlifter, or increase your numbers for when you do want to compete, let's say, once a year. If after you get the technical stuff done and, we see where things need to come up, generally speaking, the average person needs to bring up their glutes, their hamstrings, their triceps, their back. Those are the 4 biggest things that we see in powerlifting that people come to get help. That's the areas that are lagging. Those areas when they're brought up, their numbers go up. So that would be my suggestion. However, with a physique-based athlete, you may be different. You're going to have much stronger shoulders and pecs because you actually directly isolate those muscles, where in powerlifting we don't do that. So now we need to take more emphasis and probably take some of your quad training that you're typically doing and put it more towards your hamstrings and your glutes, rather than hitting a whole lot of quad work. Or the bicep work can drastically drop. We can do a couple sets to keep our elbows happy, but we probably need to shift more of our volume towards our triceps and towards our rear delts on our shoulder work, and not really worry so much about front raises and lateral raises. Again, just enough to keep things happy. And then lots and lots of upper back work in general. That with the bodybuilding stuff tends to go pretty hand in hand. Usually bodybuilder's got a big back, he's probably a pretty damn good bodybuilder, and the same can be said for powerlifting. And then just your trunk work. You're probably going to do a little bit different work in terms of how you learning how to breathe, how to use your belt properly. That's all different to powerlifting versus bodybuilding. So you're probably not going to see, really focusing on contractions for the ab work, you're probably going to be looking at a mix between static work and hip flexion. The hip flexion is going to be important because you're going to be doing a lot of extension, but you also need to be able to learn how to sync your hip flexors in with your abdominal work for whenever you're squatting and pulling. So, your abs may be trained anywhere from 2 to 4 days a week, but I would say you need to vary on each session how you train your abs. You might have a flexion based, you may have a static, anti-flexion, anti-extension based, so basically things like your planks and whatnot. You may have like an oblique based day where you're going to do side planks or rotations or side bends. You could name it, and then you can have a day where it's just going to be random to whatever you feel like doing. Give yourself a little bit of freedom in your programming, but still know that whatever you're doing is still going to help increase your lifts. So the big picture of all this is, if you're going from physique to powerlifting, you're already in a good spot as you probably already have a fair amount of muscle mass. Now we need to work on technique, breathing, and displaying that strength on the platform. For your first meet, don't worry about what you total. Make sure you get a total, so make sure that you get a squat and bench deadlift in. But don't be chasing drastic, huge numbers. Just go in and get a total. Make sure you know the rules, kind of learn the rules, learn how the meet operates. Don't worry about cutting weight unless if for some reason you're that naturally gifted to where you can hit an all-time world record. Then you probably should have been powerlifting for a while, but don't worry about cutting weight. And then lastly, just make sure you know all the equipment standards and how you want to compete, whether it be raw with knee wraps, single ply, multi-ply, and find the federations and meets around you that interest the way that you want to compete. I think that pretty much covers it. It's not much different than people think it is. Your training isn't going to be drastically different. You're just going to be heavier on your compound movements, and the rest is all self-explanatory once you get the technique down. So that's all I've got for this one. Hopefully that helps you out, Liz. I hope you really get on the platform. I think it would be awesome to be able to help you out. You're in Oklahoma, I think, so that's not a bad place to be in terms of powerlifting world. There's some good gyms and some pretty decent meets in that area, and you're right next to Texas, which is one of the best powerlifting states in the country. So hope that helps, and have a good one.